micro, we're jammed to abandoned buildings. Sees an empty cup, we fill.
Welcome everyone to the Eve growing concept. Today's video is going to be talking about non-traditional growing and the grant monies that are being attained to install these non-traditional growing methods. And when we're talking about non-traditional, we're talking about aeroponics, hydroponics, and aquaponics systems, soilless growing. Right, there's a lot of excitement, rightly so, to get these systems installed in our schools, in municipals, in our private organizations, because, you know, for these educators, they're trying to instill STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, or hopefully STEAM, which adds the arts in there: science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. Okay, so the STEAM or STEM principles, right? And growing food is a great way to instill all of these tools, because there's many ways with these non-traditional growing methods to use engineering and technology and science and mathematics. It's all there, right? And what a great way to instill these principles in a way that feeds ourselves, feeds people or the people around us. This is a great thing, right? But I want to talk about some problems that you may not know about. And if you're going to install one of these systems, you really should have a third party there who's more neutral, like myself, or at least has a different method that might be even better than what you're trying to get if you're trying to instill these STEM or STEAM principles, right? And the one key problem with these systems is they're not as easy as they are. Of course, growing isn't as easy as it always looks. After you see the end product, you're like, wow, that looks amazing, that looks easy, I want to do that. And I know with these soilless growing, these non-traditional growing methods, I got so excited way back when I started doing it, thinking, oh my God, no weeding, you save all the water, all the many advantages they have. You can grow in the city. You don't have to have all this acreage, farmland like traditional gardening does. And I got all excited, so I made all kinds of different systems and setups. I started with the hydroponics and aeroponics, and I did the aquaponics. And that's what I ended up with. I'm talking fast because I have 15 minutes. I think that's how much I'm allotted for YouTube. Maybe it's a little longer, but when I first started out, they allowed me only 15 minutes, so I want to keep it under that. So I'm going to talk fast, okay? So why shouldn't we get these grants? They instill STEM principles. Why wouldn't we want to install them? Because, you know, a lot of times, and the growing professionals won't tell you this because, of course, their livelihoods depend on you buying their system, rightly so. So I don't think they're being disingenuous when they try to show the positives. But the growing professionals, even these growing professionals, have a very difficult time growing food in the hydroponics and aeroponics and aquaponics system. They have a difficult time growing in these systems. So. And most of the time, it's the person who initiates the grant, and then it takes a little while for the system to be installed. That person is long gone. That college student or person is no longer there. So the people who are left behind with these systems that most of the time sit in the middle of a greenhouse don't know what to do with it, because it's not as easy as it appears. There's a lot of variables that it's not as easy as traditional gardening, but most of the time we're in cities, so we can't grow traditionally, so we have to think of these systems, right? Well, let me show you a system here called EVE. EVE is the acronym Eco-Vertical Evolution, and I feel EVE is amazing and for a lot of different reasons, because one thing about EVE, we have not lost the art of composting. Okay, these other non-traditional growing methods are soilless, so they don't necessarily need to use composted soil. And I think if we're going to teach STEM and STEAM principles, we need to at least add the composting, because composting is just as important as recycling and reusing. Okay, with the EVE growing system, each tower is packed with composted soil. Each tower is a living underground world where we try to mimic Mother Earth's best growing conditions. Each of these towers all the equipment, all the materials found can easily be attained in urban settings. Think about that thought. Instead of purchasing more plastic from all these different growers who have all these different systems, if a student can make his own tower very easily, using minimal tools, by the way. So it's not like it's difficult, and you can retrofit once you learn the EVE principles, you can retrofit any container for EVE growing. And what's that mean, retrofit in a container? Well, you want good aeration, you want good drainage, okay? So, like I was saying, each tower we try to mimic Mother Earth's best growing conditions. So within each tower is a living underground world where we have, most importantly, the red wiggler is in there. The red wiggler is in there, and it's multiplying. And when you water from the top, again, like these other soilless growing methods, you know, they talk about that they save all the water. They use only 1% of the water. Same is true here. The only thing with the Eve growing system is the water comes out more nutrient rich than when it was initially added. And the aquaponic aspect of Eve, of course, I use fish. I raise fish. I raise catfish. So I use that water as another supplemented nutrient to water my plants. So when I'm cleaning my aquarium, I use that fish water and water my plants. So I've got all kinds of different things growing organically here, right? So we get the fish water, we get the worms that are creating aeration and good drainage that are inside each one of these, and that's all important stuff for STEM and STEAM, right? And it's very easy to do. You know, here's another amazing thing. With Eve, we're not tied into electrical cords and pumps and piping like many of these other non-traditional growing methods are. We don't have to worry about that. So our gardens can be mobile. Can you think of the advantages of having a mobile garden in an inner city spot? Look at this, it's all paved. I'm growing all this vegetable. Look at the grid I got here. I've got look at the little space here. I've got all my greens here. All kinds. I got celery, kale, all organically going. Look at how green that is. Here I got some strawberries and some more greens. I got some basil. Eve has it all over these non-traditional growing methods when it comes to leafy stuff, because this tower like this, I can go literally probably 4 days without having to water this because of the internal makeup of each tower. Okay, 4 days. So I don't have to have any pumps to do it. When I water it, I just come over here, I pour it here, or I can pour it from the top and slowly water it right down to the bottom, because the way it's designed, it flows right on through, and all this precious irrigation is saved for the next watering. It's added to the watering regimen, right? So I've got mint all day long here. You know how invasive mint can be? I've got it all contained and beautifully set up on wheels where it can be moved around on a rooftop or a parking lot. You know, with Amazon taking all of our commercial businesses away, there's going to be all kinds of these empty buildings. Well, I got to tell you, with Eve, this is potential gardens and farms for me, because I grow on blacktop. The harder the surface, the easier the roll, right? Harder the surface, the easier the roll. So you see strawberries, and this wheeling system is kind of beat, but you got strawberries there, right? So what else we got here? Okay, here's our basil. That's looking very good, right? This is almost done. Been picking this like crazy to keep it at bay. And the mint, basil, all of our herbs are so easy to grow, guys, with the Eve growing system. This is the way I think you educators who are teaching these STEM precepts, you need to think about Eve. You need to have this third party like myself, because I bring the non-traditional growing methods with the traditional growing methods, and we come together for a urban growing experience like no other. I tell you, look at this tower right here. These aren't red yet, but I got plenty of tomatoes on here, different kinds of tomatoes. I've got eggplant here. You can't see it on this side, but maybe this side. The bottom one is all eggplant. So I got an eggplant coming in on here, and a couple over there. I've got green peppers here. These guys are doing amazing. These guys are doing very amazing. So I have green peppers. Again, imagine, look at this guy. Imagine the farms of the future when you could be mobile. And here is the technology and the engineering. When we design these so they're like some intelligent farm animal that you get your iPhone and you call in tower 1000 to 110 to come in for your watering, and there in a nice cool atmosphere, the Eve growing professional does all the growing needs, comes to this, the towers come to them, the farm comes to them, okay, as it comes out from these hot parking lots where they're getting all the sun. Think of the advantages of that. What could you do if your garden was mobile? You could take your farm and take it into the building if there's going to be bad weather. New England here, longer growth cycles would be attained, and we're using very little energy. If we wanted to hook this up to be totally self-watering, if I wanted to go away for a week, which I have done, I have this set up using hardly any energy. A small pump can water all these towers at one time, and I can be looking at my garden while I'm doing it. So I think if you're going to have these growing professionals come in, and I don't want to talk negative, because most of these guys are very knowledgeable on their particular growing method, and they got a lot invested in it. And they are not going to tell you the negatives because they want you to purchase it, of course, rightly so, right? I think it's not good for that person who ends up with the machine, the system. I think it's going to be like some workout machine that doesn't quite live up to expectations, and you know, you can't hang your coat on that. You get this big system floor that nobody knows how to run, nobody's allowed to touch, because you mess with one little thing and the whole system can be ruined. You know what I'm trying to say here? If you are looking to install one of these non-traditional units, give me a call. I live in New England, so if you're anywhere from Boston to New York to even Washington, D.C., I would travel. And I'll be a third-party opinion. And we'll talk about the pros and cons of each of the systems, and we'll talk about another system that I feel is far superior than all these other ones, at least on a residential scale, or at least what a school or municipal would want to use it for. Save these non-traditional growing methods, the hydroponics, the aeroponics, the aquaponics, save them for growing professionals who know how to work them, because they're not so easy. They're certainly not as easy as Eve, and Eve uses far less energy. I'm doing the same thing as far as the water goes. I'm only using 1%, right? Is that what they like to say? So, and we're getting inner city kids to get more excited for growing. You know, I think of, if you look at these, they look very much like the Tower Garden, right? I think of how many this Steven guy from the Bronx machine who's growing with all these Tower Gardens. I think to myself, how many inner city kids, first of all, are going to be able to afford a tower garden? And then when they get this tower garden, they're tied into some corporate entity for the machine itself and then for the fertilizer that needs to be done. We got to teach our kids how to compost, how to do vermicompost, and that aspect of STEM, right? We got to teach the kids all about nature and how non-traditional growing and traditional growing can come together. If this video interests you, please subscribe below. If I hope I haven't offended any of these other growing professionals, because I'm just talking truth. It's sad when somebody buys one of these machines and it just sits in the middle of the greenhouse floor doing nothing except running energy. You know, you're better off going to the Whole Foods place and buying the expensive organic food than having a machine that's constantly running and growing trivial plants that are doing nothing. You know, they've installed these with the hopes of growing all year round. I've been following a few of them, and I got to tell you, they're not growing at all. And what they are growing is sparse at best. So look at this garden here. Think about mobile gardens. You heard it here first. Mobile inner city gardens is going to be big, and that's all I have to say for now. God bless. Over and out.
Yeah. My crew were jammed to abandoned buildings. Sees an empty cup, we fill 'em. I keep my circle tight, vibe just right with my six string singing all night. Gender, faith, color, or lover, don't matter one way or other. No complaints from music softer. Thanking God for that, but news dad is a doctor. My crew doesn't quit. My crew is so chivalrous. I am a gentleman, you're a lady. That don't mean that tonight won't get crazy. We work hard to play harder. Raise up your glass, be it whiskey or water. Here's to us and our freaking weekends. So yeah, let that party begin. We play that game, so pick your poison. Good luck to you if you play the boys. And that girl right there can outdrink and think you in blind too. It's a boy to do, boogie on down to the dance floor. Show me what you're building that buzz for. A little freedom is a beautiful thing, but get too rowdy and bow to the porcelain king. You see, my crew doesn't quit. My crew is so chivalrous. I am a gentleman, you're a lady. That don't mean that tonight won't get crazy.